We know that chameleons can change color, but did you know that that color change can communicate to us what a chameleon is feeling? In fact, the chameleon is likely the reptile most able to communicate with humans, if we learn their language. Today, I give you an introduction to speaking your Panther Chameleon's color language. Welcome to the Panther Chameleon Podcast. My name is Bill Strand, and I will be your guide through the life stages of the incredible Panther Chameleon. Hello, my name is Bill Strand, and I'm excited to get into this topic. Chameleons have been long thought to change color to match their background, and this is simply just not true. I'm not sure how this started, but it's become so ingrained in our society that it actually shows up in some biology books. But all it takes is taking a chameleon and looking at its background, and you realize it's not matching the background. In fact, there was one time where I had a green chameleon against my yellow shirt, and someone was arguing that chameleons change color to match their background. Not even evidence right in front of their eyes would change their mind. But I need to make it clear that chameleons change their color due to temperature and emotional state. It has nothing to do with the background. Each species has a certain palette that they can change. Jackson's chameleons are mostly within the green and the brown, and some of the stump-tailed chameleons from Madagascar, they just go between light brown and dark brown, although there's definitely cryptic colors and some very interesting patterns there, so they're by no means boring. Panther chameleons have an interesting situation where they're very bright, but depending upon where they come from, they have different colors that they show. Though, once again, they are limited within a certain range, so your yellow chameleons are not going to suddenly turn blue. Panther chameleons are definitely a unique species, and we're still not sure why they have the colors that they do. We are going to be talking specifically about panther chameleons in this episode. And the thing that's most important to those of you who are new to panther chameleons is that when you're shopping for panther chameleons and you're seeing these incredibly bright colors, that what you're seeing are pictures of adult males that are fired up. And each one of those words is significant. And so I'm going to go through that word by word. The first word we're going to look at is adult. When panther chameleons hatch, they're these little brown and white slivers of cryptic patterns, and this is because everything in the world wants to eat them. They are small little morsels, and so they have to hide. Their coloration helps them hide. It makes them blend into the background. Now you're saying, oh, wait, you said it didn't blend in. No, they don't change colors to blend in, but there are certain colors that have developed and evolved over the millennia that help them survive. And this is part of the panther chameleon's survival. The males and the females are identical as far as the coloration when they hatch. The colors of the adult male start to come in probably around 3 to 6 months, and they have their full coloration by 9 to 12 months. Now, this is important because there's a lot of confusion in the community with these very young juvenile panther chameleons. People will order a chameleon based on the adult male coloration, and when they get one in, it looks very much like a female. Well, that's just what they look like when they're juvenile. Though, if you do have a male, you should, after a number of months, you should see some of those colors start to come in. And when I say start to come in, I mean it's like they're faded. It's like you can imagine that they're there, but you're not sure. And then they come in more and more prominently. The females are hardly innocent at this, and they will add to the confusion by getting some very nice blue cheeks, which made you think, oh, this is a male. Now, there's a lot of shenaniganing going on as these chameleons are growing up. So just know this is one reason why it's important to go with a reputable breeder, because they're going to know how to tell the difference between a male and female and make sure you get the right one. I know when you're starting out, there's a lot of confusion, and it's very difficult to sex juvenile panther chameleons. I will tell you that even for experienced people, it's very difficult. And so you definitely want to go with people who know what they're doing. And I want to reiterate how important that is. This is just one example as to why a reputable breeder is important for you to work with. And you may ask, what does reputable mean? Well, I did an entire episode on finding a reputable breeder, but the high level is you know that they're reputable depending upon what the sale means. If them selling you a Panther Chameleon is the end of the relationship, I'm going to be concerned about the quality that you're getting, because the reputable breeder views the sale of a Panther Chameleon to you as the beginning of the relationship, and they're going to be there to handhold you and take your calls from that point essentially forever. They want you to be successful, and so this is the sign of somebody who's serious about it, and I would trust their ability to tell the gender of the chameleon that they're sending you. The advantage of going with a reputable breeder is that if there's a confusion and if there is a mistake, sometimes there is a mistake. These guys can be tricky. The reputable breeder is going to work with you to make sure you get what you originally wanted. Our next word that we're going to be going over is male. Yes, it's the males that have that bright color that have made the Panther Chameleon species famous. Now, that doesn't mean that the females don't have color. They are a beautiful swash of pink, orange, salmon colors with blue highlights, and they can have some dramatic black stripes. So the female is a wonderful chameleon in herself, but you rarely see any sort of marketing material that has the female in it. It's always the male that you're seeing, and that's kind of what you expect. Now, this shouldn't be a problem if you're working with a reputable breeder, because if you want a male, they'll send you a male. This becomes a bit of a problem mostly when either you're working with a new breeder that really doesn't know, or a breeder that really doesn't care, those that are not as reputable. And if you're buying an egg, there have been people who buy eggs, and there's a 50% chance that what you're going to get is a female. Since Panther Chameleons are genetically determined, you're not able to control how many males or females you get with the eggs. It's just 50-50. So go into that eyes wide open. I love Panther Chameleon females, and they make great pets, and they are dramatic on their own. But if your heart is set on a male, then definitely work with a reputable breeder. You're probably going to hear me say that about 5 more times through this episode. Reputable breeder is the way to satisfaction. And finally, and this is a big one, I use the words fired up. When the adult male is fired up. What you're seeing, those bright colors, are display colors. That's what you get when the male wants to scare away a rival male, wants to impress a female, or is threatened and wants to make himself look fierce. And this is when they show their brightest colors, and this is when the picture is taken. This has caused a bit of confusion because people buy a chameleon expecting those kind of colors, but when their chameleon is home, the chameleon is kind of muted. Sure, it's got some colors, but they're still muted. And we always get people coming in and saying, is my chameleon sick? Their colors don't look so good. Rest assured, your chameleon is not sick. Your chameleon is actually healthy. Us experienced Panther Chameleon keepers, we want our chameleon to be relaxed and have those duller colors. I mean, yes, we love bright colors just as much as anyone, but the more muted colors indicate that the chameleon is content, and we don't want them to be all fired up. Every now and then is okay, but on a general basis, you don't want your chameleon being filled with adrenaline. So if you're getting a yellow-bodied blue bar ambilobe and you notice, well, wait a minute, they look kind of green all day. Yeah, that green turns to yellow, but at rest, the yellow body blue bar ambilobe is a green body blue bar ambilobe. And those blue ambanjas that fire up those amazing unreal blues, well, when they're kind of relaxing, they may be a little gray. And this is good. Now, there are some selective breeding programs going on, and with multiple generations, the resting colors have been getting brighter and brighter, and this is by design. And so if you get a Panther Chameleon that is part of a well-established bloodline, you very well may have resting colors that are brighter than someone working with one that's closer to the wild blood. And so I think those are the most important things about Panther Chameleons that you need to know before you get a Panther Chameleon. You don't want to feel like what you got was not what you purchased. And it's great that you're listening to this because now you can know what to reasonably expect from your Panther Chameleon. And that's important. We need to know what a panther chameleon is. Now, obviously, I've already gone over some things that color change can communicate to us, but I'm going to review it all here again to be complete. So the first thing that panther chameleon color change can tell us is age. As I said before, when panther chameleons hatch, they are brownish, they are cryptic colored. And when I say cryptic, that means that it's a pattern that disrupts the shape of the body so they can hide in leaves and branches and such. And both male and females have this coloration when they hatch, and as they grow, they slowly bring in their adult colors, and this generally happens over the first 9 months. Now, one thing that's important to know is that this color change is not actually tied to age. It's tied to maturity. And maturity is tied to how fast they grow. This is important because if you have a clutch of panther chameleons and you put one half of that clutch in ideal conditions and another half of that clutch in not so ideal conditions, they will both grow up, but they will grow at different rates. The ones that are in ideal conditions, they're fed nutritious insects, they're kept individually, and they come from great bloodlines. These guys could start showing adult colorations at 3 months old. But the ones who don't have that great of conditions, they could start showing colors at 6 months old. So you really can't tell the age of the panther chameleon by whether the colors are coming in, but you can tell the maturity of the panther chameleon. And actually, that is the most important thing. We have this standard that we don't want to send chameleons to their new home until they're at least 3 months old. That's actually because of the dynamics that I just talked about, the different growth rates. That's actually not a good standard, even though everybody uses it because it's easy. A better standard is weight and body size. I know one panther chameleon breeder that uses 12 grams as the cutoff as to when they're ready to go to a new home. It doesn't matter how long it takes to get them to 12 grams, but that's the cutoff. Under 12 grams, stays. And there isn't a community agreed upon weight, but 12 grams sounds good to me. And now here's our favorite one. We can tell the emotional state of the chameleon by their colors. Of course, if you have the eye to see it, your chameleons are not shy in communicating with you. If they don't like you, they'll let you know by puffing up. They'll have their little arm up here. They'll puff up their gular under their chin. So yeah, they're not very subtle with their communication, but the colors will go along with that. And when they're trying to get you away, you're going to see some brighter colors. That's why, if you've kept panther chameleons for a while, you actually feel honored when you walk up to them and they don't flash bright colors to you. That's because they're comfortable with you, and that's really our goal. But those colors come in when they see a rival male or a mirror, or they see a female that they want to impress. Rival male, female, a threat. These things bring on those bright colors. And one thing you will find out is that chameleons are very good at recognizing people. They will get to know you, and they will know you as their caretaker, and they will be much more comfortable around you than they will be a stranger or a friend that comes in. Of course, that visual ability can confuse things, because if you come in wearing a red shirt, some panther chameleons will just go off on that and consider you a completely different person, and they won't like you at all. You come in with a cap over your head. Well, to some panther chameleons now, you're an entirely different person. You're a stranger, and you'll get them all puffing up at you. So just know that panther chameleons are very visual. They can identify human beings, but they don't always use the same markers that we do, and they're easy to confuse. Now you're getting this same emotional color change capability in females. They'll just be doing it with a different palette. And when they're in sight of a male, they will react as well. If they stay their rest colors, their nice pinks, oranges, then you know that they are receptive and they're willing to mate with the male. Now, if they're not receptive, that's when you're going to start to see some fireworks. That pleasant salmon-colored female that you've got there will suddenly turn bright orange with dramatic black stripes. And this is to let the male know that this is not happening and Mr. Flashy Pants can take his shenanigans elsewhere. Males can be persistent in their advances and females can be unambiguous in their answer. Another reason that chameleons change color is to regulate temperature. Yes, as we know, darker colors will absorb more energy. And so you'll see panther chameleons in the morning when they go to the basking bulb, they're going to be dark colors. And so if you see your chameleon in the morning and, oh my goodness, that's a dark color, are they sick? No, they are just absorbing all of the heat that they can from that basking light until they get warmed up, and then they're going to go into their rest colors again. And on the other side, when they're overheated, their colors are going to get blanched out, bleached out, very white and light colors because they want to reflect as much of the light as possible. They don't want any more of it. This also comes with gaping and breathing through their mouth, trying to cool off. Now, being dark and absorbing light energy, that's normal, that's healthy, that should happen every day. Getting blanched out and opening their mouth because they're trying to cool off, that is a danger sign. You don't want them to get to that. You don't want to see that anytime. And if you do see that, that is a code red emergency. Get that chameleon into a cooler area or else they could die. And now I'd like to go over special cases of when you'll see chameleons in colors that you may not expect. The first is when they're sleeping. When they are sleeping, they truly are at rest, and you might be surprised at how bright and colorful they are when they're sleeping. And actually what this suggests is that their rest state is bright colors, and so whenever they're awake, they are constantly modulating their skin, and the rest colors that you're seeing when they're modulating their skin is actually an active color manipulation. But sometimes when the lights are off, go in late at night and take a look at your chameleon, and you might see some colors that are surprising and quite attractive. Now, you'll also notice that their skin is photosensitive, so when you're shining the light on them, you're going to see those colors slowly disappear. And anybody who's gone to look at chameleons in the wild at night will know this dynamic, because if you see a chameleon, you put a flashlight on a tree and you see the chameleon, you have to keep moving your light around, or else the chameleon's skin will adapt to the flashlight and you won't be able to see them anymore. Now, I don't know that that's totally true for every species of chameleon, but just take that as a little very interesting bit of trivia. Now, there's another strange case where the males will go gray, and we don't know why. They can be bright and then they'll suddenly go gray, and they'll stay gray. They can stay gray for weeks, months, even years. I have an ambulope panther chameleon that, for whatever reason, just went gray. And he's been that way for a year and a half now, I think. He's just now starting to show some color, and I have no idea why he went gray, and I have no idea why he's deciding now it's time to come out of it. There's no pattern that I can tell as to seasons or what's in his eye shot. It's a mystery, and it doesn't seem to be affecting his health at all. And there was nothing I could do to bring him out of it. I'd show him rival males, I'd show him mirrors, I'd show him females, and nothing I did would make a difference. He would just stay happily gray. And so I've kept him. And as long as he wants to be gray, he can be gray, but he's now starting to show color, so I guess whatever it was, he's getting over it. And this is an example of how much we can learn about our chameleon by its color, but also that sometimes the color is a little wacky. All part of the adventure. So that's a lot to absorb, but don't worry, you have a lot of time to get acquainted with your panther chameleon. Let's review some major takeaways here. First of all, the marketing photos that you're seeing of a panther chameleon are the adult male fired up. So yes, fall in love with the colors, but be fully aware of what exactly you're looking at. 2, watch a chameleon as they go through life and get a feel for their behavior. You, as the keeper, are going to be able to observe them day in, day out, and you're going to be able to get a feel for their baseline personality, behavior, and if anything is off, you are going to be the first one to notice. This is very important because chameleons hide their illness well. And if something's going wrong, it's going to take a trained eye to be able to pick it out. You've heard this thing going around, chameleons are so fragile and they'll just drop dead. They don't drop dead, and they're very hardy. The thing is that they hide their illness so well to the untrained eye, they look like they dropped dead. But you are observing them every day. You are going to be able to pick out little things that are indicative that there's something wrong. And this is how you are uniquely qualified to know when your chameleon needs to go to the vet. Because the sooner you start treatment on something, the better the chance that it will be successful. And you will get to the point where it's just a feeling and you really can't put your finger on it, but it feels like something is off. And yes, if you act on that, sometimes it'll be a false alarm, but I got to tell you, when I act on something that I just can't put my finger on, but I know there's something wrong, most of the time, it's because something's actually wrong. That early disturbance in the forest is often what's going to save their life. Chameleons respond very well to antibiotics and medication if it's administered early in the illness. And finally, remember that every panther chameleon is an individual. They will be just as influenced by the genetics of their mother's side as they are of the father whose picture you purchased them for. And so your baby is going to grow up to a panther chameleon that's going to have a show all of their own. So purchasing a chameleon based on the father's picture just puts you in the ballpark of possibilities. How diligent your breeder is in selecting the lines that went into your baby from both the mother's side and the father's side will dictate the probability that your baby will get close to the father. And with that, I hope you feel a whole lot more comfortable interpreting what your panther chameleon is telling you through their color. And I hope you're enjoying this podcast. There's often a video that accompanies the podcast, and you can see this video on Spotify. Spotify has this very cool thing where you can upload the video and that becomes your podcast and a visual. You can also go to the Chameleon Academy channel on YouTube and see the video there. Just look for the Panther Chameleon podcast playlist. No matter where you listen to this episode or watch it, I'm glad you're here and I'm glad you're doing your research. The absolute best thing you can do for your panther chameleon is know what a panther chameleon is and have your expectations in line with what they really are. And as for me, I have a blast putting this together. And if you're interested in some behind the scenes discussions and plans, you can join me at the Chameleon Academy Patreon account. Just search for Chameleon Academy Patreon. And I'd love to see you there. The support of the Patreon members helps fund an outreach like this. To those already part of the Patreon, thank you very much for your support. And for everyone, thank you for joining me on this journey to learn about the panther chameleon. This is Bill Strand signing off, and I'll see you next time.